Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan battle video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the physical Broly. We're going to see just how good he is after his recent Extreme Z Awakening on DBZ Dokkan Battle Global. So Broly is a movie boss with a full power lead of Ki +3, HP attack and defense of 170%. He greatly raises attack and defense for one turn and causes supreme damage to all enemies, which is pretty good. It's an AoE. He has Ki +6 and attack and defense of 150%, plus an additional attack and defense of 120%, and launches an additional attack that has a high chance of becoming a super attack when facing only one enemy at the start of turn, plus an additional attack and defense of 150% and a guaranteed additional super attack when facing two or more enemies at the start of turn. Transforms when conditions are met. Broly will transform into his full power state starting from the 4th turn of battle. In terms of his link set and his build, I still prefer a full crit build with a bit of additional for this guy. In terms of his link set, same Warrior Rays, Super Saiyan, Prodigies, Berserker, Shocking Speed, Prepared for Battle and Fierce Battle. And he's on movie bosses, Pure Saiyans, Full Power, Transformation Boost, Super Saiyans, Exploding Rage, Miraculous Awakening, Gifted Warriors, and Power Beyond Super Saiyan, which is pretty decent. Overall, Broly looks like he's a pretty good unit, and honestly he seems pretty solid. I think a lot of people are comparing him to Gogeta, but I think Broly's the kind of unit that when he cooks real good. In terms of his transform state, Broly is basically an improved version of himself. So one thing that I will say for the transform state is he loses greatly raising attack and defense, which is a bit of a shame, considering that would have made him almost, I think, better than Gogeta. He has Ki +8 and attack and defense at 200%. He launches an additional attack that has a high chance of becoming a super attack, plus an additional attack of 200% and defense of 100% when facing only one enemy at the start of turn. He has an additional attack and defense of 120% when facing two or more enemies at the start of turn, and launches an additional super attack starting from the turn in which he has performed the 3rd super attack in battle. So he can super potentially up to 4 times if you have any additional in your hidden potential system, but he will predominantly possibly super 3 times, which is still really good. We're going to try him out on a couple teams, mainly being movie bosses, which is a 200% lead under Cooler. So movie bosses, transformation boost, pretty good for Broly, who's under both of those categories. And then we'll be trying him under something slightly different, but more the same, just a full power variant basically. So yeah, overall Broly looks pretty good. Like I said, the main thing about Broly is that he does gain a significant amount of defense after he supers, which is maybe the only real kind of issue with Broly. Like, I think overall it is possibly his biggest issue as a unit. So yeah, his defense can get really good, but so if you look at him, for example, as a unit, let's just talk about Broly. He starts off with attack and defense of 150%. Then he gets an additional attack and defense of 120% when facing only one enemy, and 150% when facing two or more enemies. He then gains or greatly raises attack and defense on super. So all of these effects take note on super, which is quite a big deal for Broly. In terms of raw attack stat, 4.2 million, pretty good, considering he basically has a guaranteed additional when facing two or more, or when facing one he has a high chance, which is 50% chance of firing an additional. So it may be 4.2, maybe slightly lower than Gogeta's, but when you factor in that Broly has guaranteed additionals, his attack stats should ring out to being about the same, considering you can build him for crit, and crits are pretty good. The big thing with Broly is RNG. If you can kind of get all of those really cool procs to occur, then Broly can really start to look incredibly good, which I think is still super impressive. I do think he's maybe a step below Gogeta, but I still think Broly's really impressive. Like, honestly speaking, he, like, yeah, like he's still really good. His damage is pretty nutty. It's his defense that gives me the slight concern. Like, personally speaking, I think his damage is honestly fine. Broly, for the most part, so Gogeta has guaranteed crits, but the most he can do is 2 supers in a turn. Okay, Broly doesn't have guaranteed crits, but he can do up to 4 supers in a turn with almost a 50% crit rate. So Broly's damage is pretty comparable. 248, by the way, with a pretty good sizable defensive buff. Broly will gain a lot of defense again on super, which is super important, but yeah, 248 looks low. It feels low. Maybe they could have given him the ability to stack defense for multiple turns. I think maybe would have been better, but it is something that I think people do need to take cognizance of, is that Broly is still he's a dangerous unit. You're gonna see him here, 7 million as an attack stat. This is just a 2-dupe Broly, no link leveling, nothing too special, paired up with a good support. It's huge. Broly could have fired 2 more of those. It's really, really good. Like, it's really, really good. And his defense goes up hugely on super. It's just that he isn't really, I think, as immediately impactful as Gogeta. And I think that's where people maybe get a little bit upset, maybe, with how he looks as a unit. I'm not too certain. I think it's just the inconsistency. It's very similar to the whole Ultra Gohan Piccolo situation. The inconsistency is what really, really affects like most of the units. When people compare units, it's about consistency for the most part. It's about who they benefit with, who they partner up with, and how consistently you can have them on a rotation. That's why first slot units are always so admired by the community, because the fact that they can sit in the front slot, soak up damage, and you can consistently use them to set everything else up. Consistency is the number one thing players love about units in Dokkan Battle. I always think that that is the case. If a unit is inherently good or bad is depending on how consistent they are. And I think Broly falls into the category of being mildly inconsistent. I also think if there was like a truly awesome first slot tank that existed for Broly, if there was like a tanky Broly, then I think, most times people would be very happy. The Int Broly is a very good unit, but he's also only super tanky after a couple supers. He's not really a huge first slot tank. Red Zone doesn't have a lot of pure Saiyans enemies, so yeah, it is very, very, like, I don't want to say questionable, but it is a little bit inconsistent in his rotations, his overall performance, just everything. I still like him. I just think that keyword of inconsistency is what holds him back from being someone that everyone's truly excited about. But overall, I do think he's really solid. He's great. He's really, 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 really great. Personally speaking. But otherwise, overall, he's really, 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 really good, personally speaking. Yeah. Obviously, I think, for me, he's still good. And I always like Broly units. My profile name should explain. It's one of my favorite characters in the show. But the thing is, I just think they need to give him that first slot tanking part. They're so scared because of Golden Frieza units. They're so scared to give great tanking units to the extreme side. There's 1 or 2 exceptional tanking units, but they're very terrified to give a good tank Broly. And I think the reason is because it just sets up so many other Broly units to make the team really insane. Like, the team starts to look really nutty when you really get down to brass tacks. Broly here though he looks good. Defense wise is pretty solid. I personally think he looks great. And yeah, one thing I will say, Broly is a unit that could look really crazy with some manipulation, basically. You're gonna see some pretty crazy stuff from him as a unit, because damage is not his issue. Gain 7 million, fairly easy, fairly consistent, and he's gonna crit, and it's gonna be over. There's no Dokkan event can handle the level of damage Broly does. So he looks really good. I just think the main concern I have is his lack of real, true first-class tanking unit. It'll be exciting if they give him a tank, if they give him a true tank, a unit that can just really soak up the damage and be an exceptional tank, pair super well with him. That will be when Broly starts to really look crazy, because the Int Broly now is currently the best tank they have, and yeah, he's only got 18% damage reduction. It's not really enough without facing a pure Saiyan's enemy. So, but beyond that, yeah, physical Broly looks really good. I just think they could have maybe changed him up a little bit. Even if they made his raising attack and defense for 3 turns instead of 1 turn, that probably would have solved his issue anyway. Because then the next turn he comes out, he would have been like at 500k raw defense, and he'd look incredible. So I think if there's any change, it would be that. Link wise, Broly is got a good link set, especially for Broly units. Same Warrior Race, Super Saiyan, Prepared for Battle, Fierce Battle. These are common not just amongst Broly units, but amongst many units. Prodigies is more of a Vegeta thing. Shocking Speed is a little bit inconsistent key link. Berserk is the big Broly link, and some Gohan links. There's something I would like to say is, when it comes down to his link skills, he doesn't gain too much from them. A little bit of attack from some of them. Berserker gives him more attack, but his health has to be below 50%, which can happen, but it just isn't likely. Prepared for Battle gives him a little bit of defense and attack, but link leveling Broly is not the same as link leveling other, like, movie bosses units. For some reason, they don't give Broly big bad bosses. They never have, and I doubt they ever will, as it would cripple all the linking that Broly's do, although it would be nice. I think the big thing is, without those kind of big movie heroes kind of link sets, he doesn't necessarily link great with a movie boss's team. So he's stuck linking with other Brolys, and that just leaves him in a little bit of an awkward position, really. I think at the end of the day, that's the big problem with Broly, is no matter what you do, you can't, like, worst case scenario, you could link him with a good front slot tank. And as long as they have big bad bosses, he has big bad bosses, you're fine. But the problem is Broly doesn't have that. So that's really one of his issues. But overall, I would give Broly probably an 8.5 out of 10. I think he's really good. Let me know what you think down below. Bye.